Grandma's Shanghai Cheongsam shop is a living fossil in Chinatown, every stitch a moment in time. I design game characters in Silicon Valley, thinking her knotted buttons and embroidery are relics. To convince her to retire, I used her Cheongsam elements to create the blockbuster game character, Silkpath Mirage. The game sold wildly, and reporters swarmed to interview Grandma, the inspirational muse. Staring at the screen showing the character in exaggerated, modified Cheongsam, wielding a lightsaber, she only said, "My peonies aren't embroidered like this." I petulantly replaced the game's embroidery needles with virtual ones. But she secretly registered an account, opened a Suzhou Embroidery Studio in the game, teaching players to embroider real Jiangnan peonies. And business boomed. The scent inside Cloud, Gown Pavilion, was Vivian Lin's childhood, and now, the shackle she desperately wanted to escape. It was the faint, cool sweetness of silk emanating from aged camphorwood chests. The crisp, clean starchiness unique to sized lining fabric. And a trace of something elusive, clinging to her grandmother Sue Ruffin's hands, the metallic coolness of her thimble intertwined with the warm, fibrous scent of silk thread. Lazy afternoon sunlight strained through the intricately carved wooden window facing the street, casting fragmented, dancing patterns onto the polished terrazzo floor, worn mirror smooth. Countless dust motes waltzed silently within the golden shafts of light. Grandma sat perfectly straight at the antique rosewood embroidery frame by the window. Her silver, white hair was coiled into an impeccable bun, a work of art in itself. Reading glasses perched on her nose, the eyes behind them sharp as needle points. Her posture, even seated, held the poise of a bygone gentlewoman. Her fingers, etched with time yet still remarkably dexterous, held an embroidery needle finer than a hair. Its point guided vibrant silk thread, piercing the taut moon, white satin stretched on the frame. Stitch after stitch landed with silent, precise grace. A magnificent peony was blooming beneath her touch. Its petals unfurled in layers, colors shifting seamlessly from a rich carmine red at the heart to a delicate blush, white at the edges, as natural as if kissed by the purest dew of a Jiangnan morning, trembling on the brink of falling. "Vivi," Grandma spoke without looking up, her voice soft yet cutting clearly through the stillness, landing squarely in Vivian's ears. "Fetch me that roll of crab shell green thread. Third drawer on the left, the darker shade underneath." Her needle hovered mid-air, adjusting the angle for the next stitch. "And your father called. He's bringing his American boss tonight to order a gown for the boss's wife. Tall woman, large frame. Needs a treasure flower pattern to command presence, not this delicate peony. Fabric should be something structured, like brocade. Lake blue or pine green double quotes." A faint sigh escaped her, laced with barely perceptible weariness and a hint of disapproval for changing tastes. Sigh, clients these days. They don't understand elegant proportion anymore. Just crave novelty and noise. Vivian murmured an acknowledgement and walked towards the row of deep old wooden drawers. Her fingertips slid over the cool, smooth poles before delving inside. Rolls of silk thread lay in meticulous rows within, cool and slick, a spectrum of colors like a spilled paint box. Touching them should have evoked warmth, but instead, it stirred only a familiar, suffocating restlessness. The dazzling interfaces of 3D modeling software from her Silicon Valley office, the futuristic character concepts, her colleagues passionately debating the latest VR project, those images bursting with vitality and infinite possibility clashed violently with this world where time seemed frozen, this realm of exquisite yet to her, hopelessly outdated craftsmanship. She watched Grandma's profile, utterly absorbed, almost reverent. Sunlight gilded her silvered temples, and the no longer smooth skin of her neck, illuminating the fine tracery of time. The thought that had simmered within her for so long surfaced again, undeniable. Grandma needs to retire. This shop is too much. It's time to rest. This skill is a treasure, but also a heavy cross. Persuading Grandma to retire proved harder than debugging the most complex code Vivian had ever encountered. She tried logic, detailing Grandma's worsening joint pain, the eyes that strained ever closer in dim light to see the stitches. She tried emotion, painting pictures of warm Hawaiian sun, crystal clear seas, the vast world she longed to show her. She even resorted to cold, hard numbers, the exorbitant Chinatown rent, the shrinking pool of clients who truly appreciated and could afford bespoke handcrafted cheongsams, the increasingly grim figures in the ledger. Each time, Grandma simply listened quietly, her needle never ceasing its silent journey across the silk. When Vivian finished, breathless, Grandma would lift her gaze, her eyes calm behind the lenses, and reply softly, "The shop stands, the roots remain. Lose the skill, and it's truly gone." Or more devastatingly, machine embroidery. Soulless, dead things. One evening, after a particularly tense dinner, watching Grandma rub her stiff knuckles, the mix of heartache and frustrated misunderstanding finally breached Vivian's composure. "Your skill is a treasure. I know that better than anyone," she blurted, her voice tight. "But it's hidden down this alley, gathering dust. Who knows? What young person wears this anymore? Jeans and T-shirts, day in, day out, it's all about ease. Clinging to these needles and threads. It's like guarding relics in a museum display case." The words escaped before she could stop them, instant regret dousing her like ice water. She saw it clearly. Grandma's fingers gripping the needle jerked violently. The fine point scraped perilously close to her fingertip. Grandma looked up. The eyes behind the glasses weren't calm. They were sharp as fire-tempered needles, piercing Vivian, filled with profound disappointment and the deep hurt of being misunderstood by her own flesh and blood. Vivian felt scorched by that gaze. But Grandma said nothing. She just bent her head lower, as if channeling all her emotion, her stubbornness, her unacknowledged grievance, into stitching the unfolding layers of the peony. Only the tiny she of the needle piercing the satin remained, each sound pricking Vivian's conscience. On the flight back to Silicon Valley, the engines roaring as the plane climbed above a sea of clouds, regret and agitation warred within Vivian. Staring at the expanse of white, an idea struck like lightning. If I can't bring Grandma out of her world, maybe I can bring her world into a new one. One she might understand, even join? A plan, bold to the point of absurdity, took shape. Weave the Cheongsam elements Grandma cherished into the core of Mystic Realm Chronicles, the next Gen Eastern fantasy MO she was helping design. Her character design team was brainstorming a female support character with an Eastern mystique, a dreamweaver, manipulating threads and illusions. Vivian seized it. She plunged into the high-resolution Cheongsam patterns and intricate Suzhou embroidery motifs Grandma had emailed, the very relics she'd once dismissed. Grandma's phoenix amidst peonies embroidery was her masterpiece. Vivian captured the ornate, auspicious motif, deconstructed, warped and reassembled it on a digital canvas, imbuing it with flowing, azure glowing energy. It became the dynamic core embellishment on the flowing robes of the character, Silkpath Mirage. Grandma's exquisite, painstakingly crafted knotted buttons, the subtle grace of the pipa clasp, the delicate flutter of the butterfly clasp, the dignified simplicity of the straight, bar clasp, were magnified, distorted, adorned with data, streaming virtual gems, becoming the character's ornate shoulder guards and belt buckles. Traditional? No. They retained classical echoes while radiating futuristic tech. The character's weapon? Vivian discarded swords. She remembered the tiny needle in Grandma's hand. Inspiration exploded. Twin energy blades coalesced from countless shimmering virtual embroidery needles. They glowed with cold light, trailing data, particle streams like brilliant threads when swung. The character's name emerged, Silkpath Mirage, a weaver of illusions traversing reality and dream, threading paths with silk, wielding needles as blades. The design detonated in Mystic Realm Chronicles' internal review. The art director nearly leapt from his seat. Brilliant, Vivian. Perfect cultural deconstruction meets futuristic fusion. The needle as a weapon is pure genius. Deep Eastern resonance meets unparalleled visual identity. This is our star character. Upon release, Silkpath Mirage, fueled by her unique aesthetic, potent skills, and cultural innovation, backstory, became an instant global phenomenon. Skins, weapon transmogs, merchandise flew off virtual shelves. Gaming media clamored. Mystic Realm Chronicles' traditional culture fusion was hailed as revolutionary. Soon, sharp-eyed journalists and cultural analysts traced the stunning aesthetic inspiration back to its source, Cloud Gown Pavilion, a century-old Cheongsam shop deep in San Francisco's Chinatown, and its reclusive master embroiderer, Madame Sue Ruffin. Interview requests flooded the shop's ancient answering machine, and grandma's rarely checked email like a tidal wave. Vivian flew back to San Francisco, heart a mix of trepidation and secret hope. She imagined grandma's delighted surprise seeing her treasured craft adored globally, reimagined so thrillingly. She even carefully printed glossy screenshots of the most stunning game art and player cosplays of Silkpath Mirage, their exaggerated virtual costumes mimicking game poses. Cloud Gown Pavilion remained steeped in its near, palpable quiet, broken only by distant traffic. Grandma sat in her usual spot, using a tiny crochet hook to secure intricate knotted closures on a newly finished pine green brocade cheongsam. Vivian took a deep breath, excitement tinged with the urge to impress, and carefully laid the smooth printed sheets over Grandma's embroidery frame, covering the unfinished work. "Grandma, look! This is the game character. Silkpath Mirage. Global sensation. A superstar." Vivian's voice trembled with excitement. She pointed at the dazzling virtual image. "See? The energy patterns on the skirt? The core inspiration is your signature phoenix amidst peonies. Artistic license, but the spirit's there, right? And these shoulder guards. Doesn't it remind you of that huge, super complex butterfly clasp you made? And the weapons. Look!" She pointed eagerly at the blades. Energy blades forged from virtual embroidery needles. "Isn't that genius? Elevating your craft? Reporters everywhere want to interview you. They say you gave this character its soul." Grandma set down the crochet hook. She picked up her reading glasses and slowly put them on. Her wrinkled hands lifted the cold, industrial, smooth prints. Her gaze, like a precision scanner, swept over the image of the outrageously clad character, the skirt slit scandalously high, the phoenix and peonies, pattern reduced to abstract glowing lines, dazzling but devoid of stitch, breathed life. The shoulder guards massive, spiky, studded with shiny virtual gems, stripped of a button's function and subtle grace. The character's face heavily painted, almost grotesque, gripping the needle, blades in an aggressive stance, ready to cleave worlds, utterly devoid of a dreamwaver's serenity. Time stretched, heavy as lead in the shop's silence. Vivian's expectant smile, under Grandma's protracted quiet, dimmed like a candle snuffed by wind, replaced by cold dread. Grandma looked slowly, meticulously, as if etching every pixel, every glowing line into her memory. From the dazzling hollow energy patterns to the sharp, oversized button, like shoulder guards to the lethal glow of the blades. Her face remained utterly impassive. No hint of the surprise, pride, or even curiosity Vivian had hoped for. It was a deep, cool calm, unnerving. Finally, Grandma set the prints down. She removed her glasses, not looking at Vivian, and picked up a soft chamois cloth. She began polishing the lenses with excruciating slowness and focus, as if it were the most vital task. Only when every inch gleamed did she lift her head. Her calm gaze met Vivian's, now tight with anxiety. It cut through the dust motes in the air, sharp and clear. Her aged voice broke the silence, soft as a falling feather, yet landing with the weight of an anvil, shattering Vivian's illusions. "My peonies," her index finger, calloused from decades of needlework, tapped firmly on the character's skirt. Where the pattern had been deconstructed into meaningless, lifeless light, her tone flat, yet each word carved in stone, aren't embroidered like this. Vivian's face drained of color. It felt like a physical slap. The roar of disappointment, mixed with the humiliation of complete rejection by the person who mattered most, crashed over her like icy waves. Her carefully built bridge was, in Grandma's eyes, a desecration. The reporter's praise, players' frenzy, the company's accolades, all turned to dust under Grandma's quiet dismissal. A wave of adolescent defiance, banked but never extinguished, flared. Fine, fine. You think my needle is nonsense, ruining your treasure? Vivian's voice shook as she snatched the prints. Then this virtual needle isn't worthy of your Suzhou Embroidery's glory. I'll erase it. She stormed out of Cloud Gown Pavilion, slamming the door on Grandma's quiet judgment and the suffocating silence. Back in Silicon Valley, fueled by resentment, Vivian immediately pitched changes to the game's art lead and producers, leveraging her clout as Silkpath Mirage's creator. The core demand: remove all specific references and visual effects tying the characters' weapons to virtual embroidery needles, rendering them generic energy blades. Downplay the inspired by traditional embroidery, hints in the lore, the justification. Streamlining, avoiding potential cultural copyright issues, enhancing CFI universality. The team grumbled, but Vivian's status and insistence pushed the changes live. Seeing scattered player comments like, "Did the particle effects change?" or "Feels less unique now," Vivian felt a twisted vindication, as if hurling a silent, rebellious stone back at Grandma's stubborn world across the ocean. She actively avoided any news of Cloud Gown Pavilion, banishing the folder of Grandma's Cheongsam patterns to digital exile. Life blurred into code, meetings, and takeout. Over a month later, while checking player feedback on a new dungeon, a hot post on the Mystic Realm Chronicles forum caught Vivian's eye. Shocking. Legendary life. Skill player appears in Chang'an. Jiangnan embroiderist teaches real Suzhou embroidery in game step-by-step peonies. Attached were in-game screenshots. The setting: a bustling marketplace corner in Chang'an, the game's main city. A female player character named Jiangnan embroideress, clad in the plainest, less beginner's garb, sat quietly in an inconspicuous spot. Before her stood the basic, in-game embroidery frame prop for life skills. Mundane, except for what was on the frame and what the embroideress was doing. Stretched on the virtual silk was a peony in the process of being embroidered. The petal outlines weren't pre-set patterns, but meticulously rendered, directional stitches applied one by one. Even more astonishing, Jiangnan embroideress wasn't using the auto-embroider function. She was manually controlling the character's hands. Screenshots captured her guiding the avatar through the intricate motions of real embroidery with unbelievable patience and precision, threading, inserting the needle, drawing the thread, withdrawing the needle. Each step meticulously broken down. Accompanying text, typed in the game chat, provided detailed instructions. Thread color: carmine for heart. Blend in vermilion from layer 3 outward, then pale pink from layer 5, fading to blush white at tips. Stitch: Dao Zuan for petals, working inward from edges, layers interlocking. Gun Zahan for outlines, tight and even. Leaves: Kong Zun follow vein flow, shade from deep green to light celadon. Hundreds of replies exploded beneath the post. Holy crap! How is this even possible? How deep is her understanding of the animation engine? Manual embroidery. I bow to the master. These peonies look more real than my grandma's. Those stitch descriptions sound legit. Master Jiangnan embroideress. Take disciples. Name your price. This is real cultural mastery. Beats the flashy dressers by miles. Worship? Followed. Livestream please. I want to learn. Vivian stared at the screenshots, especially the lifelike peony composed of countless virtual stitches. A chill shot up her spine. The technique, the color gradation, the seamless shading, even the specialized terms, Dao Zan, Gun Zun, Kong Zun. Who else in the world but Grandma Su Rufin could be this skilled, this dedicated, recreating this ancient craft in a virtual world? Her fingers trembling, Vivian immediately searched for the player Jiangnan embroideress in-game. The character info was sparse, low-level basic gear, but the embroidery life skill was nearly maxed. No guild, empty friends list. A character existing purely for embroidery. Vivian gritted her teeth, paying the hefty in-game teleport fee to the Chang'an coordinates from the post. The virtual world's cacophony engulfed her. Ancient pavilions floated amidst clouds. Crane cries echoed. Players in dazzling gear rode mythical mounts through throngs. Spell effects painted the sky. Amidst this hyper-fantasy chaos, Vivian spotted the corner instantly. The plainly dressed Jiangnan embroideress sat before the simple frame, untouched by the surrounding splendor, yet radiating a quiet intensity. On the frame, a new peony bloomed slowly under her virtual needle. Guided by her command, virtual silk thread filled the outlines with astonishing patience and precision, shading the colors. A crowd had gathered, some watching silently, some typing questions in local chat, others excitedly screenshotting. No flashy spells, no epic battles, just a meditative focus emanating from the simple figure, strangely subduing the virtual world's gaudy excess. Vivian guided her own character. A high-level mage in resplendent gear, massive luminous wings spread behind her, threw the onlookers to the humble frame. She clicked the interact prompt on Jiangnan embroideress. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard leaden. 1,000 words choked her. Finally, only the simplest question, loaded with seismic force, trembled onto the screen. Private message star. Archmage. Grandma, is that you? Time seemed to freeze. Chang'an's noise faded to a hum. Vivian stared at the screen, heart hammering against her ribs. Seconds later, the plain figure stopped stitching. She slowly raised her head. Her virtual gaze seemed to pierce the screen. Meeting Vivian's, a line of text appeared in the chat box. Calm, world, weary, yet hitting Vivian like a hammer blow. Private message Jiangnan embroideress Vivi. This virtual silk lacks the resilience of real satin. The needle lacks a certain bite when it goes in da. It was Grandma. Vivian clapped a hand over her mouth, tears welling up hot and sudden. The cold text conveyed Grandma's stubborn tenderness, her clumsy attempt. She wasn't rejecting the new. She was doggedly, in her own way, guarding what she believed was right in this alien world, trying to teach others. Overwhelming shame and an indescribable warmth surged through Vivian. She grabbed her phone, dialing Cloud Down Pavilion by instinct. The familiar, lingering ringtone echoed, each tone resonating in her chest. The call connected. Grandma's calm, uninflected voice. Hello? Cloud, Gown Pavilion. Grandma! Vivian's voice was thick with tears and unchecked emotion. I saw you. In the game. How? How did you learn to play? She couldn't fathom it. A woman who barely used a smartphone, navigating account creation, character building, complex controls, even figuring out how to simulate Suzhou stitches virtually. Silence stretched on the other end. Only Grandma's steady breathing. Then, the aged voice came, carrying a hint of childlike pride and a touch of weariness. Young Wang's grandson. Visited during summer break. 3 days of sour plum juice before he agreed to teach this old relic. This needled at double quotes. She paused, searching for words. On your shiny world, it's tricky, flimsy, no anchor. What it makes? Lacks vitality. A soft sigh traveled the miles, carrying a fatigue Vivian had never sensed before. But I had to try, can't let people think. Our peonies are just glowing lines on a screen. Vivian wept harder. She pictured Grandma under a dim lamp, squinting through reading glasses, fumbling with a mouse, grappling with the game's psychedelic interface, trying again and again, just to plant a real peony in virtual soil. Grandma! Vivian took a deep breath, wiping tears, her voice resolute. Wait for me. I'll help. Make your Suzhou studio thrive in the game. Show everyone what real vitality looks like. Vivian moved with lightning speed. She contacted the Mystic Realm Chronicles art lead and producers, leveraging her clout as Silkpath Mirage's creator. She proposed a detailed event centered around Jiangnan embroideress and her astonishing display of authentic traditional embroidery. Needlework Universe, the virtual legacy of Suzhou embroidery. Approval came swiftly. This wasn't just brilliant cultural marketing. Jiangnan embroideress had already ignited genuine player fervor. Days later, Mystic Realm Chronicles released a major update trailer. It opened with Silkpath Mirage, wielding her blades in epic combat, then seamlessly shifted, warm, serene focus on Kandan's humble corner. Jiangnan embroideress, plain-clothed, guided a virtual needle trailing luminous silk thread across virtual brocade. An incredibly intricate, lifelike phoenix amidst peonies, bloomed on the frame at visible speed, stitches dense and natural, colors flowing, petals layered, seemingly fragrant. The trailer ended with the event title, Seek the True Silkpath Mirage. Needlework Universe Event Now Live. Suzhou Master Jiangnan Embroideress teaches lost stitches. Experience Eastern craftsmanship stitch by stitch. Launch day transformed the corner into the special event zone, Suzhou Studio Virtual Legacy. The simple setup was replaced by a beautiful Chinese garden courtyard, pavilions, flowing water, bamboo shadows. Vivian logged in early, waiting nearby. She'd set up special streaming tools and simplified teaching templates for Grandma's character. The moment Suzhou Studio went live, it was inundated. Server lag spiked. Players packed the virtual courtyard, a sea of avatars, mounts, and effects. Vivian nervously guided Grandma through remote login. When the familiar, plainly dressed Jiangnan embroideress appeared at the embroidery frame, local chat exploded with cheers and worship emojis. Master is here. Embroideress. How do I keep rolling stitch straight? Kowtowing to the Grandmaster. This setting is gorgeous. Silkpath Mirage herself pays homage. Character Showcase. Silkpath Mirage. Grandma was clearly stunned by the virtual spectacle. Through voice chat, Vivian heard a soft, flustered intake of breath. Vivi, this so many people, louder than New Year temple fairs. Grandma's voice, filtered through the mic, was raspy, laced with tension. Grandma, don't worry. Just like teaching in the shop. Vivian reassured, her voice gentle but firm. See the teaching template? Click Start Live Tutorial, then choose the stitch. I'll type your words. Guided by her granddaughter, Jiangnan embroideress raised her virtual hand, selected the tutorial and chose Dao Zhen Petal Foundation. Game mechanics took over. The virtual needle and thread magnified, hovering above the frame like intricate 3D models. Grandma's slow, clear Jiangnan, accented instructions flowed as Vivian typed them into the stream. Dao Zhen, layers are key. Work inward from the edge. Each new layer covers the tail of the last, for seamless blending, hiding the stitches. Thread colors must be chosen right, deep to light, layer by layer like petals unfolding. The virtual needle and thread began demonstrating insertion, drawing, anchoring, creating seamless color gradients. Every nuance was magnified. Players were mesmerized. Chat exploded. This is real Suzhou embroidery, so intricate. My God, these stitches. I couldn't do this IRL, master hands. The explanation. I bow. Clearer than a documentary. This is cultural heritage. Devs nailed it. Phoenix and peonies forever. Embroideress forever. Watching the awe-filled chat, seeing the plainly dressed figure, commanding the center of the virtual world with profound skill, tears blurred Vivian's vision again. Grandma's avatar, past the initial nerves, seemed immersed. The virtual needle moved with increasing steadiness and grace under her guidance. The virtual peony bloomed more vividly fuller, radiating the vitality Grandma spoke of, under the gaze of millions. Suddenly, a golden server, wide announcement flashed. Congratulations to player, Jiangnan embroideress, for successfully reviving the lost technique water paths hide gold, and embroidering phoenix amidst peonies during needlework universe. Awarded title, Grandmaster of Suzhou Embroidery, forever enshrined in Mystic Realm Chronicles annals. The Suzhou studio erupted. Golden light enveloped the plain figure. On the virtual brocade, a golden phoenix soared, peonies bloomed in splendor, stitches finer than nature, glowing with inner life. Chat drowned in Grandmaster. We worship. Cultural legacy lives. Tears streaming, Vivian looked at the video call window on her phone beside the computer. On the screen, thousands of miles away in Cloud Gown Pavilion, Grandma leaned close to her monitor, reading glasses on. The screen light illuminated her wrinkled face. She saw the golden title above her avatar, the player's adoration, the system, declared masterwork, phoenix and peonies, embroidered, by her own virtual hand. On her usually stern, stubborn face, disbelief flickered first, then a complex mix of emotions surfaced: astonishment, deep-seated satisfaction, the profound warmth of recognition from countless strangers. Finally, it all melted into a bright, unmistakable smile. It was warm, luminous, like sunlight piercing years of dust, lighting her eyes fully for the first time, dissolving the shadows of distance. She looked up, her gaze seeming to traverse the screen and the vast ocean, meeting Vivian's on the video call. Her lips curved, her voice carrying laughter and a palpable lightness. "Vivi," she said, the amusement clear, "once you get the hang of it, this virtual needle has its own charm.